Hello and welcome, my dear students. Welcome to Shri Jayendra Rank Zone classes. I am your mentor and your friend for the subject biology. I will be taking the animal science, that is zoology. In the previous lectures, we have completed the basis of classification for animal kingdom. Then starting from the very first phylum Porifera, spore-bearing organisms, which include sponges. Then secondly, phylum Coelenterata or phylum Cnidaria, okay, which includes the organisms they evolved for the very first time with the most peculiar weapons for defense and for offense, that is the cnidoblast or the stinging cells, right? Yeah. So the cnidarians, they were the first to have a glimpse or a reflection of nervous system in the presence of statocyst. Their sensory organs they have just started to develop. Now, secondly, we have completed after phylum Cnidaria the phylum Ctenophora. These organisms are having a characteristic feature of emitting EM waves, electromagnetic radiations of different wavelengths and frequencies, which give them or impart them a unique color. Because of this, they can communicate with the other species in respect to damage, in respect to food, or in respect to prey, right? Children, now we are going to start with phylum Platyhelminthes. Carl Gegenberg, he was the first to give phylum Platyhelminthes or flatworms a distinct category. Okay. Platyhelminthes, platy means flat and helminthes means worms. So this phylum basically includes flatworms. Around we have 13,000 species belonging to this category, phylum Platyhelminthes. Phylum Platyhelminthes, for the very first time, they gives an idea about parasitism. Mean organisms of this phylum, they have a unique characteristic of having parasitic behavior. Means when two species, suppose species A and species B, they are dependent on each other, but species A basically it is gaining all the nutrients or it is getting benefit from B, but species A is imposing a negative impact on B. Okay, so parasites, it is a relationship between two species or the members of two species in which one is benefited and the other one is harmed. Okay, it is at the stage of loss. Okay, so parasites, they are of two types, ectoparasites and endoparasites. Ectoparasites which live outside on the body, okay, and endoparasites which live inside the body or the organ systems. Okay, especially or most of the endoparasites, they either have a habitat in intestine, because these parasites, they need to hide somewhere. So either they want to hide themselves in under the shade of intestines or liver or blood, it depends. Okay, so coming next, moving further in the same phylum, we will be discussing first the general characteristics of it. What are the general characteristics of phylum Platyhelminthes? Mostly parasitic. If the phylum, they are mostly parasitic, it means they have some peculiar characteristics like they should have highly developed mouth parts. Highly developed mouth parts. The body should covered within protective coat, protective covering, so that they can easily bypass the digestive juices. Okay. See, these parasites, they basically come inside the body because of contaminated food and water. Okay. So they need to pass a GI tract. So that is why they should have a protective coat, a covering, a tough covering. Okay. Along with it, they need to attach on the walls of mucosa or the mucosal epithelium or the intestinal walls. That is why they need good or highly developed mouth parts. Okay, having suckers, hooks, everything. Okay. Digestive system is absent. Digestive system is absent. Why? Because they are totally dependent on the digested food, either digested or semi-digested food of the host. That's why they don't have digestive system. Okay, many more peculiar characteristics I will be discussing in the next slide. Okay, right now I am just giving you a glimpse of general characters. First, they are mostly parasitic, means they have highly developed mouth parts. If they are parasitic, okay, they have a protective covering so that they can bypass the digestive juices of the host body. Then they have the digestive system absent, okay, as they are dependent on the solid or semi-solid food. Now coming to next, we are having dorso-ventrally flattened. They are dorso-ventrally flattened. That is why the name is given flatworms. They are dorso-ventrally flattened. They show pseudo-metamerism. Pseudo-metamerism means the segments of body are just superficial. The body is not divided internally into segments, and although the segments, they don't have any required or they are not associated with a specific function. So the first point is they are dorso-ventrally flattened, this point, and they show pseudo-metamerism. So dorso-ventrally flattened means, dorso means at the back, ventral means at the front. So from back side and from front side, they are flattened. Either you look the dorsal view, either you look the ventral view. Both are, they have flattened shape. Okay, like if I make the diagram, okay, so they are flattened from dorsal side and from the back side, that is the ventral side. Okay, they are flattened. They are pseudo-metameric, means the body is divided into segments, but segments are not complete, means only, I'll rub this so that I can show you. Body is divided into segments. The segments are like this. Oh, sorry. The segments are like this. Like I'll show you the proglottids. So these segments mean the body is having segment, but these segments, they are just superficial, just outside the skin. Okay, means body inside, it is not divided into any compartment. Okay, neither it is associated with any specific function. That is why they don't show the signs of true metamerism, means the segments, they are not actually dividing the body from external as well as the internal portions. Okay, in case of annelids, earthworm, they show true metamerism because the body is divided into compartments, and every compartment or a group of compartment reflects a particular organ, right? So this is the difference between metameric segmentation and pseudo metamerism. Then they are bilaterally symmetrical. Okay, so just before this phylum Ctenophora, the tentacles plus the aboral surface, means the anal pore and the mouth and the anal pore, they have reflected or gives us evidence that body can be divided into one plane into two equal halves. So basically ctenophorans, they have a biradial symmetry, means both bilateral and radial. And why it is so? Because in ctenophorans they have just started or evolved with the tubular body, means they are now going to have, in the coming phylums, they are going to have, a bilateral symmetry. So that is why in case of these, the flatworms, they also share a bilateral symmetry, means body can be divided into two equal halves along only one plane. Other than this, they have organ level of organization. So the common terms are, they are dorsoventrally flattened, they are pseudo-metamerism, means false metameric segmentation, they are bilaterally symmetrical, means body can be divided into two equal halves along one plane, and the organ level of organization. Now coming next, they were the first evolved triploblastic animals. Triploblastic animals means they have now three germ layers. Body is made up of three germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and then mesoderm. Before, in case of ctenophorans or coelenterata, means the cnidarians and the poriferans, the mesoderm is not there. Okay, the mesoderm is not there. It is a non-cellular layer, a jelly-like layer, which basically helps in between the ectoderm and endoderm. Like we talk about in ctenophorans, okay, it is mesoglia. In cnidarians, it is mesoglia. Okay, so this mesenchyma or the mesoglia, it is basically helpful to connect ectoderm and endoderm. But now the ectoderm, endoderm, the cells of ectoderm and endoderm, they basically obliterate, or they filled up the space in between ectoderm and endoderm, and this is known as what? Mesoderm. So they are first evolved triploblastic animals. They have organ level of organization. The organization is of organ level. They have soft body without cilia. They don't have cilia. Okay, they don't have cilia. They have organ level of organization. Rabbitides are present in epidermal cells of Platyhelminthes and serves both protective and predation. Rhabdites are present in epidermal cells of Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes is mean the flatworm. These rhabdites, they help to basically serve both protective and predation, means capturing of prey, right? Capturing of prey. One most important thing I should tell you, that in case of flatworms, the tendency or the ability to capture the prey is developed, highly developed. The development actually starts from phylum Cnidaria, coelenterata. Okay, so as they are heterotrophs, so they need to capture the prey. Okay, but if they don't have the locomotory organs, especially the parasitic flatworms, they don't have locomotory organs, so that is why they need good adhesive structures which can let them to attach with the body surface of host, means they should have highly developed suckers, mouth parts, hooks. Okay, so they are triploblastic, first triploblastic animals. They have organ level of organization. Okay, they don't have cilia, means they have soft body, and rabbitides are present in the epidermal cells of Platyhelminthes. Okay, and serves both protective and predation. Understood? Now, what exactly this rhabdites actually means? Rhabdites basically comes from the Greek word rhabdos. Rhabdos means rod-like. This basically word comes from rod-like structure. Okay, rod-like structures. Okay, in the cells of epidermis or underlying parenchyma. In the cells of epidermis or underlying parenchyma. See, in case of Platyhelminthes, they do have organ level of organization, but it is just started. It is just started, mean the initials of organ level of organization. they do have triploblastic condition, but it is just started, and that is why in case of platyhelminthes, either the mesoderms get split and it gets fill up the space between ectoderm and endoderm, or parenchyma, it helps to fill up the space. Okay, so parenchyma, it helps up to fill up the space between organs and the body wall, and also helps to transport food. Okay, the cells of ectoderm and endoderm, they need food. Okay, so because of this, parenchyma is basically providing them as a nutritive reservoir, which helps to fill up the space between ectoderm and endoderm, and also helps to transport the food. Okay, rhabdites, they are the rod-like structures present in the epidermis. Okay, or you can say the parenchyma means the middle layer of the platyhelminthes. These are rod-like structures. Okay, so is everything clear? So now the terms which should be on your fingertips: first, mostly parasitic, and if they are parasitic, their digestive system should be absent. They should have highly developed mouth parts. Okay, they have protective covering to bypass the host digestive acids. They are dorsoventrally flattened, means from the back side and from the front side they look flattened. Okay, pseudo metamerism means they have false metamerism. Body is not divided completely into equal and similar halves with associated function. They are bilaterally symmetrical. Body can be divided into two equal halves along one plane, and they have organ level of organization. They are triploblastic, means the initials of triploblastic condition just started, and ectoderm and endoderm is either filled by splitted mesoderm or parenchyma. Okay, mostly they don't have cilia, they don't have locomotory organs. Okay, rhabdites are the rod-like structure which are present in the epidermal cells of platyhelminthes. Main function is protection and predation. Now they don't have coelom, that's why they are acoelomate. They don't have coelom. Coelom is absent. Why? Because the space between ectoderm and endoderm, this is suppose ectoderm, I'll show you, and this is suppose endoderm. So the space between ectoderm, this is ecto, and this is endo. The space between ectoderm and endoderm is filled with solid tissue. This solid tissue is what? Parenchyma or the splitted mesoderm. Okay, so it means if they are filled, means actually the space is obliterated. Okay, the space is now packed, it is closed. Okay, so there is no cavity, there is no space for making the cavity, and that is why they are acoelomate. Okay, the space is just filled up. Okay, so they don't have any space to have the filling of or the construction of the cavity, right? So coming next, we are having the digestive tract is absent. As I have already told you, the digestive tract is absent. If present, then incomplete. Mostly, especially in parasitic platyhelminthes or flatworms, they have the digestive tract which is absent. Okay, and if it is present, then it is incomplete. Now skeletal system is present, respiratory system is present. Okay, skeletal system is absent, means they don't have neither endoskeleton or exoskeleton. As in case of phylum Poripharynx, they have exoskeleton made up of spicules. In case of phylum Cnidaria, they have exoskeleton as well as endoskeleton. Exoskeleton is made up of tentacles and the stinging cells. Okay, so exoskeleton and endoskeleton means they don't have any specialized tissue to support them, and that is why they can move anywhere. Okay, they are freely movable, highly flexible. Okay, the circulatory system is absent. Actually, the presence of endoskeleton or exoskeleton or the skeletal framework. Okay, in case of cnidarians, poriferans, the presence of endo or exoskeleton is just because of some cells. Okay, it is not like that the skeletal system is present. Okay, part of the skeletal system is present. Okay, and that is incomplete. In case of platyhelminthes, the skeletal system is just absent. Okay, they don't need to have this skeletal system. They don't need respiratory system, means the exchange of gases is just happening through the general body surface by the process of diffusion. Okay, they don't have any circulatory system. So these systems are absent. Now, for the very first time, the start of excretory system happens. Okay, so excretory system, the first evolved excretory system is seen in phylum Platyhelminthes in the form of flame cells known as protonephridia. Okay, nephrons you know. Okay, so proto means primitive type of nephron. Okay, so the excretory system is developed. Okay, not completely developed, but it is started to have a development, first development, that is they are protonephric, means they are having protonephridia. Okay, understood? So this protonephridia, basically why it is present? Because it is helpful in the elimination of waste, because they are just having food from the host organisms. Mostly they are parasitic, and that's why they need to have a system which can eliminate the substances which they are engulfing from in the form of digestive food. They don't have digestive system. They are not digesting anything. They are just having it. Okay, so that is why they need a system which is more powerful in terms of excretion or elimination of waste. So they have ammonia as excretory waste. Ammonia is present in the form of excretory waste. Ammonia as excretory waste, right? Now, the nervous system is developed, mean more than the cnidarians and the ctenophorans. It is ladder-like. Means it is having brain and two longitudinal nerve cords. Okay, so it is having a central brain and it is having two longitudinal nerve cords. It is ladder-like, like this, ladder-like. Okay, so it is having a brain and two longitudinal nerve cords. You have to just remember it. Reproduction, they are hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite means they are bisexual. Bisexual means monoecious. Okay, both the sex organs are present on one body. Okay, bisexual. I'll write clearly. Bisexual or monoecious means both male and female reproductive organs on one body. The fertilization is cross. Even then, they are hermaphrodite. They have bisexual, form. They are, monoecious, but they are performing which type of fertilization? Cross fertilization, and the fertilization is internal. In tapeworm, tapeworm is a parasitic fungi. In tapeworm, self-fertilization is found. Okay, basically self-fertilization will give help, or it will help tapeworm to produce multiple copies within short duration. Okay, so reproduction, they are hermaphrodite or bisexual. Okay, and the fertilization is cross. Okay, and internal. Tapeworm is exception. It is performing self-fertilization. Okay, is it clear? Development is indirect, means development involves the formation of many larvae. Okay, and these larvae, they are basically converting into one form to the other form. So development is indirect but complicated because of many larval stages in one lifespan. Okay, during one single life cycle, it is converting into many different larval stages. Okay, that is why the development is indirect but complicated. When we talk about flukes, so flukes, they are basically given, the term fluke is given to parasitic flatworms. All parasitic flatworms, they are given the name flukes. Okay, flatworms. Okay, so all parasitic flatworms, they are actually given the name of fluke. Okay, is it understood? Now coming next, the liver fluke, it is having these larvae which are seen: Miracidium, Sporocyst, Rhedia, Cercaria, Metacercaria. Okay, so these are different larval stages which are seen in one single lifespan of a liver fluke, that is Miracidium, Sporocyst, Rhedia, Cercaria and Metacercaria. And why it is to be actually learned and why it is necessary, why I am telling you, because a particular larval stage, it can be a form of infection to the host. Okay, that is why, because of these so many larvae, they have more than one host. Okay, one is the primary host and other one is the secondary or intermediate host. Okay, I will be telling about the life cycle of this Taenia solium, okay, and life cycle of Fascicola hepatica, okay, in the coming slides. So liver fluke, it is having these many larvae: Miracidium, Sporocyst, Rhedia, Cercaria and Metacercaria, right? Tapeworm, it is having also many larvae: Oncosphere, Hexacanth, Cysticercus. Okay, so Oncosphere, Hexacanth, Cysticercus, these are the larvae which are present in tapeworm. And liver fluke, okay, they are having the larvae Miracidium, Sporocyst, Rhedia, Cercaria, Metacercaria. So just you have to remember, learn the name. See, in biology, there is one termination point of every study, that the name should be on your tips. Even then you can apply the logic. Okay, so all these larval stages, it should be on your tip of the tongue and fingertips. Then only you can make a life cycle. Okay, understood? So these were different points we have just registered regarding as a general characters of phylum Platyhelminthes. I hope everything is understood. Okay, now we are going to move on the next slide. Okay, this is flame cell Protonephridia, just to show you that how does this flame cell looks like. Okay, the flame cell means they are Protonephridia. These cells somewhat look like the collection of nephrons. I mean, as we are having collection of nephrons, so multiple tubules, the tubes, okay, which carry the waste materials, and these waste materials, they basically go through these flame cells. Okay, so these flame cells help actually to have multiple cilia. They have multiple cilia, as it is shown in this figure. They have multiple cilia like this. So these cilia, they actually beat with the flow, and because of the flow, the beating of this cilia helps to entrap the solid waste products. In this way, the flame cells, the beating of the cilia of the flame cells actually help to clear the body fluid. Okay, so actually the tubules of Protonephridia, it is basically showing the opening in the body wall. Body wall means the epidermis, endodermis and the middle one, the mesoderm, okay, which is made up of actually parenchyma. So it is opening in the body wall, we can say the body wall. Okay, so this body wall, which basically is shown here. Okay, so the cilia, they helps to beat and they helps to entrap or engulf the waste food products, okay, which is to be eliminated, and that is eliminated. Okay, understood? So this is the flame cell. Okay, nothing you have to remember much. Now classification, I have created one mnemonic to learn: table, talk, confirm. Okay, so the first table means the T is Turbularia, the second T is Trematoda, and the C confirmed, the C of the confirmed is Cestoda. So table, talk, confirmed, that is the first class is Turbularia, the second is Trematoda, and the third is Cestoda. Okay, So Turbularia, mostly they are free living. Mostly they are free living like Planaria. Okay. So Planaria, also known as Dugacea. Okay. So class 1 Turbularia, mostly they are free living. Okay. For example, Dugacea, example Planaria. Class 2 Trematoda. Okay. Which lives as both ecto and endoparasites. Both as ecto and endoparasites. Okay, both as ecto and endoparasites. Trematoda live as both ecto and endoparasites, and they are known as flukes. I just told you the parasites or the parasitic worms, they are known as what? Flukes. Okay, example Fasciola hepatica, Polystonia. Fasciola hepatica is liver fluke. Liver fluke. Okay. So Fasciola hepatica, liver fluke, Polystonium, they are the examples of Trematoda. Trematoda. Okay. Is that understood? Okay. Now, coming to next, we will talk about the third class, that is Cestoda. Cestoda means they only live as endoparasites in case of vertebrates. They only live as endoparasites in case of vertebrata or vertebrates. Example Taenia, example Echinococcus. Okay. So what are the examples for Cestoda? Okay, they mainly live as endoparasites in case of vertebrates. Example Taenia, okay, Taenia solium, the tapeworm, and the Echinococcus granulosus. Okay, so these are some examples which actually found in vertebrates as endoparasites. Okay, I have shown with the help of picture. This is the Planaria, means the flat form. You can see the flat form. It is having the eye spots. These are the rudimentary eyes. Okay, rudimentary eyes. Ganglia means, actually I am going to tell you about the starting of the brain. Okay, the nervous system. Okay, they have gastrovascular cavity. Okay, but the coelom is absent. Okay, they have pharynx for engulfing of food. Okay, so they have mouth, they have pharynx for the engulfment of food, right? In case of Trematoda, you can see the suckers. This is the suckers. Okay, highly developed suckers. Okay, or the rostellum, hooks. Then this is the Fasciola hepatica. Okay, that is the liver fluke, right? So everything will be detailed discussed in the coming slides. Right now you just confirm, table talk confirm. That is class 1 Turbularia, mostly free living. Planaria, example Planaria. Class 2 Trematoda, live as ecto and endoparasites. They are also known as flukes. Example Fasciola hepatica and Polystonium. Then the class 3rd is Cestoda, that is they live as endoparasites in case of vertebrates. Example Taenia and Echinococcus. Okay, is that understood? Now, coming to next, I will tell you about the economic importance. Economic importance means, when we talk about schistoma, the blood fluke. Schistoma is the blood fluke, means a very characteristic feature of this schistoma or the blood fluke is the target site. The target site is the hepatic portal system, right? Or the mesentery veins of humans. Mesenteric veins of the humans, they actually helps to connect, or they actually helps to supply the lower abdominal regions. So mesenteric veins, they actually supplies the kidneys, the lymph nodes, the lymphatics, the spleen, okay, and in the alimentary canal as well. So these mesenteric veins and the hepatic portal system, okay, they becomes the target site for the schistioma, that is the blood fluke. Okay, is that understood? So schistioma or the blood fluke, it basically becomes a target site to affect, okay, the hepatic portal system or the mesentery veins of humans, right? Now, is it understood? Now coming to next, schistioma, it is having intermediate host, snail. So snail is the intermediate host in case of schistioma. Okay, in case of schistioma, the snail is intermediate host, right? The male carries the female permanently. The male carries the female permanently in the gynophoric canal. Okay, there is one gynophoric canal which is shown here. This is the gynophoric canal. This is the gynophoric canal which is shown here. So this gynophoric canal is basically having, okay, the female. This is the female which is living here, okay, inside the gynophoric canal, right? So the gynophoric canal, it is having a female living inside a male, okay, and it shows sexual dimorphism. This is sexual dimorphism, means both male and female are different, but they are actually tied up on the same body. So this shows or comes up with the very important feature of sexual dimorphism. In general characteristics, we have just explained, or we have just learned that the flatworms, they are what? Bisexual. They are hermaphrodite. But right now I am telling you they have, or means the schistioma, it shows a sign of sexual dimorphism. It shows the sign of sexual dimorphism. So is that understood? The intermediate host is snail, the intermediate or the secondary host. Secondary host is snail, right? Now coming to next, Fasciola hepatica, the liver fluke. It lives in liver and bile duct of sheep and goat. Okay, Fasciola hepatica is liver fluke. It lives in liver and bile duct of sheep and goat. Okay, that is the primary host. It lives in the bile duct of sheep and goat. That is the primary host, right? So primary host is the sheep and goat, especially the bile ducts. Okay, understood? And they have pond snail as their secondary host. Okay, so pond snail of genus Lamminia and genus Planorbis, they serve as secondary host. So the pond snail of genus Lamminia and the genus Planorbis, they basically serve as the secondary host. So liver fluke, it lives in basically liver and bile duct of sheep and goat. Okay, sheep and goat, primary host. Okay, and they have pond snail of genus Lamminia and genus Planorbis as their secondary host. Okay, then I'll talk about the fluke. Fluke is hermaphrodite, but because of cross fertilization, fluke is hermaphrodite, but it show cross fertilization, so it becomes an exception. Okay, so flukes, especially the liver fluke, it is hermaphrodite, but it shows cross fertilization. Okay, understood? It also causes the liver rot disease known as fasciculosis. Okay, it also causes liver rot disease, that is fasciculosis. Okay, fluke is hermaphrodite but undergoes cross fertilization. Okay, undergoes cross fertilization. So I think, is everything clear till here? Okay, now coming to next, Taenia solium, also known as the port tapeworm. Especially the main reason of having this infection of teniasis is having or engulfing of uncooked pork flesh or pork meat. Okay, the port tapeworm, the humans are considered as, serves as primary host and pig secondary host. Okay, humans are considered as primary host and pig is considered as the secondary host. Body is divisible into three parts: scolex, neck and strobila. Body is divisible into three parts: scolex, neck and strobila. Scolex, neck and strobila. Okay, so body is having three parts: scolex, neck and strobila. Understood? Then strobila is further divided into further segments, not true segments. Okay, immature proglottids, mature proglottids and gravid proglottids. Okay, these immature, mature and gravid proglottids, they are basically the parts of strobila, the terminal parts of the strobila. Okay, understood? Mouth and anus both are absent. Tinea solium, mouth and anus both are absent. When everything is basically absorbed by the modified suckers it is having, rostillum it is having. Okay, and understood? So Tinea solium, also known as the pork tapeworm, the humans are the primary host for it and the pig is the secondary host for it. Body is divided into three parts: scolex, neck and strobila. Strobila is further divided into the immature, mature and gravid proglottids. Mouth and anus is absent. Okay, understood? Okay, so I just revised this PDF for you, just a quick recap, sorry. Okay, so economic importance means the schistosomiasis which is known as what, blood fluke, also causes the schistosomiasis. Okay, target site is the hepatic portal system and the mesentery veins of humans. Its intermediate host is snail. The male carries the female permanently in the gynophoric canal. I have shown you, this is the gynophoric canal, this is the gynophoric canal. Okay, they show sexual dimorphism, right? Then fascicola hepatica, the liver fluke, it lives in liver and bile duct of sheep, goat, means the primary host, and pond snail secondary host. Pond snail is secondary host. Okay, pond snail is secondary host, right? Okay, especially the pond snail of genus Lamminia and genus Planorbis. Okay, the fluke means the liver fluke is hermaphrodite but undergoes cross fertilization. Only Tinea shows self fertilization. In the previous slide I just explained you. Okay, this fluke causes liver rot disease or fasciculosis. Okay, then Tinea solium. Now you can see the picture. This diagram is basically shown to you. This diagram here. So we are having rostillum just at the center. This is rostillum. Okay, I'll take another thing. This is rostillum. Okay, now they don't have mouth and anus, and you can see there is arrangement of large and small hooks, large hooks and small hooks, large hooks and small hooks in an alternate fashion. Okay, so these large hooks and small hooks means we can say the intermittently we are having two rows of hooks. Okay, large hook and small hook. Okay, they help actually to attach to the body surface. Along with it, we have medially four suckers. These suckers help to absorb. Okay, so they don't actually need a mouth guarded by muscles. Okay, so mouth and anus is considered to be absent. Okay, is it understood? So I have just shown you a diagram, especially the scolex part of Tinea solium. When scolex is basically having the hooks arranged in two rows, small hooks and large hooks, and in the middle we are having rostillum, and on the 90 degrees angles we are having the suckers. Okay, these are suckers. Okay, so strobila is divided or converted into the immature, mature and gravid proglottids. Okay, is it understood? Now coming to next slide. Types of proglottids: immature proglottids, mature proglottids and gravid proglottids, right? So immature proglottids, what exactly this means? The reproductive organs are not developed. That is why it is known as what? Immature. The reproductive organs are not developed. Uterus is not present. Uterus is absent. Okay. No shedding of proglottids. Proglottids, they are not shedded. Okay. So reproductive organs are not developed. Uterus is not present, and no shedding of proglottids. That is why it is known as what? Immature. These immature glottids, they actually are converted to mature proglottids. When both male and female reproductive organs, they become well developed. Uterus is small but highly branched, okay, and still they don't shed their proglottids inside the host organism, okay. Gravid proglottids, it actually serve as a infective stage, as the reproductive organs are obliterated, okay, means reproductive organs are there, they are developed, but they are obliterated, means now they are closed, okay. Uterus is branched, okay, uterus is branched and filled with fertilized eggs, okay. So what exactly, you can just imagine a picture. In immature proglottids, the reproductive organs are not developed, okay, uterus is not present, no shedding of proglottids. After this immature converts into mature, reproductive organs become developed, start of, you know, production of what? Eggs, okay. Uterus is small and branched. Why? To deliver eggs at maximum capacity, it needs so many branches, okay. But proglottids, they are not shedded. In the third, the gravid proglottids, the reproductive organs are obliterated, means there is no need for the eggs to form now, okay. Uterus is branched and filled with fertilized eggs, all the eggs are fertilized, and now they just are going to infect the host person with the help of shedding of proglottids. The shedding of proglottids is known as what? Apolysis. It is known as what? Apolysis. So apolysis is the shedding of proglottids. Proglottids, they are the terminal part of the strobila of flatworm. Immature, mature and gravid, okay. Is that understood? Shedding of proglottids is known as what? Apolysis. That this is the infective stage, okay. Now coming to next, okay. So is it understood, the immature proglottids, the mature proglottids and the gravid proglottids, okay. One most important thing you have to remember this is that these proglottids, when I will tell you the life cycle, okay, these proglottids, they help actually, okay, for, or they are having a peculiar role, a very characteristic role in the life cycle of these parasitic worms, okay. So now we will be discussing about different types of, you know, worms. Especially there are some common worms which needed to be discussed, okay. Like for example, I am going to discuss about the Fascicola hepatica, the liver fluke, okay. This is the life cycle of Taenia solium, okay. Yeah. So I will be first telling about the Fascicola hepatica. Fascicola hepatica is the liver fluke, okay. So in case of liver fluke, I already told you the sheep and goat, they are the primary host, and the secondary host is the pond snail. They cause the disease, liver rot disease. The liver fluke is hermaphrodite, but cross fertilization is done, okay. Now what are the symptoms if a person gets this infection, okay. The infected person suffers from, I'll write here, the infected person suffers from great muscular weakness, okay. Muscles, they undergoes degeneration resulting in the muscular pain. The liver gets enlarged and the bile duct gets blocked, okay. So if any person suffering from fasciculosis or the Fascicola hepatica infection, the liver fluke infection, okay, liver fluke infection. So what are the probable symptoms? The symptoms are muscular weakness, muscular pain, means the lethargy, muscular weakness. Why lethargy is there? Because see, all the nutrients they absorb food is taken by the worm only. So the cells, they are not getting sufficient amount of nutrients, okay. That is why the energy or the metabolic process goes down, okay. So liver enlargement and blockage of bile duct, Understood? These are the some common symptoms, okay. Now I'll show you the picture of Taenia solium. Okay, the hooks and all I have explained you. This is the infection. Okay, just please be with my voice, and what I am saying, please adhere to it, stick to it. We will start from the very first phase. Okay, in case of the infection, the infection basically caused by Taenia solium is known as what? Taenia solium is known as what? Port tapeworm, and Taenia saginata is known as what? Beef tapeworm. Okay, Taenia solium is the port tapeworm and Taenia saginata is the beef tapeworm. Beef tapeworm. Okay, so how exactly the infection is basically getting started? Taenia saginata, okay, or Taenia solium. Okay, here is given the gravid proglottids. In the previous slide, I have just told you the gravid proglottids, that is the infective stage. So eggs or gravid proglottids, they are basically shedded in the host organism. Okay, and these gravid proglottids, they pass through the stool of the host organism outside of the body. Now these feces are basically consumed by the animals, such as in case of Taenia solium, it is consumed by pigs, and in case of Taenia saginata, it is consumed by cattle. Okay, that is why it is known as what? The beef tapeworm. Okay, so the very first is what? The release of egg in the form of gravid proglottids, okay, in the feces, and it passes through the environment, okay, into the cattle in case of Taenia saginata and pigs in case of Taenia solium. It becomes infected by ingesting vegetation contaminated by eggs or gravid proglottids. So ultimately the infection or the developing worm, it is inside the body of pig or the beef. Now if they are consumed uncooked, okay, now this gravid proglottid, it basically is in the stage of the larva which it is carrying is the oncosphere. Okay, this is the infective stage, this is the diagnostic stage. Okay, so this is the diagnostic stage. Okay, means the infection, it can be, it cannot be, it depends. So the release of gravid proglottids, it is the diagnostic stage. Okay, the moment the gravid proglottids, the eggs come up, they hatch. Oncospheres, they hatch, they penetrate the intestinal wall and circulate to musculature. Okay, so the oncosphere is the stage which is infective stage. Infective stage in case of either Taenia saginata or Taenia solium infection. Okay, the port tapeworm and the beef tapeworm. So oncosphere, it gets hatched from the egg which is supplied in the form of gravid proglottids. Okay, now this is the infective stage. This oncosphere, it develops into cysticerci. Oncosphere develop into cysticerci. Basically, oncosphere, the feces containing oncospheres is eaten up by pig, and each oncosphere contains a hexacanth. Hexacanth means 6. So these hexacanths penetrate the gut of the pig. These hexacanths from the gut of the pig pass through the blood of the pig, and from blood of the pig they passes to the muscles of the pig. Okay, so actually hexacanth stage is not shown here. Okay, so what I am just telling, stick to it. What exactly is happening? Oncosphere larva, it is in the gravid proglottid. Okay, the gravid proglottids are consumed by the cattle and the pig. These oncospheres, they hatch and they are converted into hexacanth. Now it is inside the pig. The hexacanth, it penetrates the gut of the pig and passes into the blood of the pig. From here it passes into the muscles of the pig, and from muscles of the pig it is passing through basically converting into the cysticerci. Okay, so this cysticerci larva, which is basically present in the muscle, which is exactly or actually developed from the hexacanth. Okay, so to avoid confusion, I will write here. Okay, what exactly is happening, I'll write here. Okay, I am starting from the gravid proglottids. The gravid proglottids. These gravid proglottids, they are having oncosphere larva. Oncosphere larva. It is then passed to, okay, outside in case of through the human species. So oncosphere in human feces, right? Yeah. From here it passes through pig. Okay, the oncosphere, they are consumed by pig. From here it passes to form hexacanth. Okay, hexacanth, it penetrates the gut of the pig. Now it passes through the, from gut it passes through the blood, okay, then it passes to the muscle. So actually the hexacanth inside muscle, it is converted to cysticerci. Okay, so now coming next, so this cysticerci in muscles, it actually infects humans infected by ingesting raw or undercooked infected meat. Okay, so cysticerci is the point of infection in case of the humans, which are the secondary host, and in case of the primary host or the cattle or the pig, okay, the infective stage is oncosphere. Okay, is it understood? Okay, so this is the infection in case of Taenia solium. Okay, just a minute, I just told you something, vice versa. Humans are the primary host in case of Taenia solium infection, primary host, and pigs and cattle, they are the secondary host or intermediate host. So I sometimes also get confused, secondary host. Please stick to it. Okay, so the infective stage for primary host means the humans is what? The cysticerci, and in case of the secondary host is oncosphere. So it is understood, I think. Okay, yeah. Now coming to next, this cysticerci also leads to an infection which is known as what? Cysticercosis. Okay, so basically what is happening, see, the cysticerci is present inside humans. If this cysticerci means it comes inside the eye, okay, it further matures, it comes inside the eye. The oncosphere penetrate the intestinal wall and circulate through the musculature, and it comes inside the eye. So cysticerci may develop an organ. Okay, sometimes what happens, the oncosphere, they get hedged and penetrated inside humans. They need not to do that because they have to pass through the gravid proglottids in the feces. Okay, but here the oncosphere, they hedge, they penetrate the intestinal wall and they circulate in the musculature and they develop into cysticerci. This cysticerci most commonly in subcutaneous tissues forms a cyst. It forms a cyst like brain and eyes, and this infection is known as what? Cysticercosis. This is known as what? Cysticercosis. So this is all about the life cycle of Taenia solium. So whatever is important I have just discussed already. So this cysticercosis, it is caused by cysticercus. Cysticercus is known as what? Bladder worm. I have shown you here cysticercosis. Okay, cysticercus is the larva of tapeworm which develops from oncosphere, and oncosphere, they don't hatch inside the humans, they hatch inside the pig. Okay, so cysticercus is the larva of tapeworm which develops from oncosphere. If oncosphere directly reaches human stomach, they accidentally may become secondary host. So sometimes humans can become secondary host if they have oncosphere with indirect contamination. Okay, humans, they are considered as primary host, not the secondary host, right? Now Taenia saginata, that is beef tapeworm, primary host humans and secondary host are cattle and buffaloes. Okay, primary host are humans and secondary host are cattle and buffaloes. It is longer than Taenia solium. The Taenia saginata, that is beef tapeworm, it is longer than Taenia solium, and the Taenia saginata, the primary host are humans and the secondary host are cattle. In case of Taenia solium, the primary host are humans and the secondary host are pig. Okay. Rostrum and hooks are absent in case of Taenia saginata. So it's a very important modification that rostrum and hooks are absent in case of Taenia saginata. Now, Echinococcus granulosus. Echinococcus granulosus, the dog tapeworm or the hydrated worm. It is also known as dog tapeworm or the hydrated worm. So just you have to remember the name. The life cycle was to discuss about the Taenia solium and cysticercosis. Okay. Neither we are going to discuss the brief life cycle of liver fluke. Okay. Because in human health and disease, I will be discussing the same. Okay. So I think it is understood. Okay. Okay. So we'll move to the next slide now. Next slide is nothing. Okay. So this topic means the platyhelminthes is already covered. It is finished from my side. You have to just make a revision cycles again and again to remember all those terms and events and the terminologies. So we will be starting the next lecture, okay, on phylum Annelida, phylum Aschelminthes, okay, and Annelida as well. Okay, so till then, bye bye, take care everyone, stay safe, stay blessed.